Hey there, and welcome to the weekly Asylum and Immigration Reform Update, where I share with you 5 recent stories of interest to asylum seekers and those who want to stay current on immigration news. This week, we're discussing
critics say Trump's plan to deport all undocumented immigrants is impractical. A new rule aims for fast removal of high-risk asylum seekers. NYC's comptroller calls the city's 60-day shelter limit for asylum seekers ineffective. A report highlights the enduring contributions of immigrant U.S. military veterans. Trump's re-election may severely restrict legal immigration avenues, experts opine.
I'm Brian Manning, and I used to be an asylum officer with the government, but now, as an asylum lawyer, I help immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. It's my pleasure to bring you asylum and immigration reform updates each week right here on the Political Asylum Lawyers YouTube channel. Okay, let's get to the news. First up,
a new analysis critiques Donald Trump's renewed promise to deport all undocumented immigrants, saying it echoes the 1950s Operation Wetback, underscoring a dramatic approach to immigration that experts find both disturbing and impractical. Operation Wetback, initiated under Eisenhower, involved mass deportations and heavy enforcement, but had a complex legacy, with many deportees simply returning to the U.S. Trump proposes expanding this approach with more extensive use of detention centers and local, state, and federal forces. This plan ignores changes in immigration patterns, including the higher diversity and urban distribution of undocumented immigrants today compared to the 1950s. Critics argue that without offering legal immigration options, such measures will fail to curb undocumented immigration effectively. Furthermore, the proposal overlooks the practical challenges and potential resistance such enforcement might provoke in today's socio-political environment.
And next up, for update number 2.
The U.S. Department of Homeland Security has introduced a new rule aimed at expediting the deportation of asylum seekers who pose public or national security risks. The regulation targets individuals with serious criminal convictions, those involved in persecution, or who may otherwise be a threat to U.S. security. The rule would allow asylum officers to assess these risks during the initial credible fear screenings, which occur shortly after an individual is detained. This approach aims to shorten the lengthy process currently in place, where potential public safety threats are detained but remain in the U.S. during prolonged legal proceedings. Additionally, DHS is refining its guidelines on the use of classified information in immigration courts and has updated protocols for evaluating whether asylum seekers can safely relocate within their home countries. Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas has acknowledged that comprehensive immigration reform must ultimately come from Congress.
All right, time for our third immigration update.
New York City's comptroller is urging the city to abolish its 60-day shelter limit for asylum seekers, deeming it ineffective and detrimental. A 5-month investigation by the comptroller's office found that over 10,000 families received 60-day eviction notices, impacting nearly 38,000 people. Lander criticized the policy's implementation as haphazard and counterproductive to achieving stable housing. Advocates argue that the policy promotes a sense of scarcity and fear among migrants, exacerbating their anxiety and instability. They suggest that eliminating these notices and adopting competitive bidding for housing services could reduce costs and better support asylum seekers in transitioning to more permanent living situations. New York City has struggled under the weight of a massive influx of asylum seekers in recent years. Mayor Adams has urged the Biden administration to provide more resources and to allow asylum seekers to work legally earlier in their asylum process.
And moving right along, update number 4.
A new report draws attention to the contributions of immigrants in the U.S. military. Since the founding of the United States, immigrants have served in the U.S. military, their presence fluctuating with recruitment needs, but consistently integral. As of 2022, immigrants constitute 4.5% of the 16.2 million U.S. veterans. Eligibility for military service extends to naturalized citizens, lawful permanent residents, and certain nationals from Pacific Island countries. The 2022 American Community Survey reveals that 731,000 U.S. veterans were born abroad, a notable increase in proportion compared to previous decades. This rise reflects broader U.S. demographic trends and targeted recruitment efforts. Immigrant veterans predominantly come from Mexico and the Philippines, with a significant portion gaining U.S. citizenship through their service, highlighting the military's role in integrating immigrants into American civic life.
And finally, our 5th Immigration update for this week.
Immigration experts anticipate significant restrictions on legal immigration if Donald Trump is re-elected. Proposals from the Heritage Foundation, which has influenced Trump's policies, include capping and eventually phasing out certain temporary foreign worker programs and suspending updates to the eligible country list, potentially crippling these programs. Additionally, there is a suggestion to pause processing in heavily backlogged immigration categories. These changes could severely impact the U.S. labor market, where immigrants constitute all recent labor force growth, aiding in economic stability and growth. Other proposals include cutting federal aid to universities that offer in-state tuition to undocumented immigrants and ending the Flores settlement, which sets conditions for detaining migrant children. Trump also plans to revive policies like Remain in Mexico and use the National Guard for mass deportations, raising concerns about widespread impacts on civil liberties.
And that wraps up this week's immigration news. If you want to win asylum in the United States, then you should call my office today. We help people all over the country, so it doesn't matter where you are. Call us now to schedule an asylum strategy session so that we can help you secure your future in America through asylum. Again, I'm Brian Manning, and it's an honor to serve you in your immigration journey.